It's impossible to go to the market.
Many of these people are not necessarily part of the Maoist movement.
Many are not, but many are,
I guess they're becoming. Is that what you're suggesting?
That the Salvadorum didn't work. It backfired, and more people became part of the Maoist movement. So now they've announced a full-scale war, which is called Operation Green Hunt, where something like 70,000 paramilitary troops are closing in on the indigenous people of this country.
So having been inside and living with the people in this movement that you've been writing about for years from the outside, how do you compare the portrait that we're offered in the official story and what you witnessed living among those people?
See, what I think has happened, which is very terrifying, and I think even scholars who have studied this kind of thing before have said, is that when a population of people is being prepared to be wiped off the map, not as in put into concentration camps and shot or gassed, but this is a population that is not a consumer population. It's what the Germans used to call überzahligen Essern, I think, which means superfluous eaters. They are not required. So it's important to make them, either to demonize them or to make them completely faceless, so that when you slaughter them or when you lay siege to them and they're already starving and malnutritioned, when they disappear, you don't notice. So that the rest of the population can live with their consciences clear. So that's what's going on, that they're trying to dehumanize them in a way, to make it impossible, because it's true that the Maoists' rhetoric can be quite ugly, and they do say very openly they want to overthrow the state.
And there are bodies piling up on both sides.
Well, the bodies piling up on one side and the other you cannot compare, for one. But the second thing is that, because, I just want to say two things. One is, I've been in that forest at night. What do you do when 1,000 policemen come and surround a forest village? Do you go on a hunger strike? Or what do you do? You have to fight back. And then they say, oh, did they kill the policemen? Isn't it terrible? But
well, this is the country that gave the world the Gandhian ethos.
The Gandhian ethos is a very frightening ethos in the forest, because the Gandhian ethos requires, it's performance that requires an audience. And in the forest, there's no audience. In a society that doesn't belong to the rest of society, how do hungry people go on a hunger strike? How do people who have no money not pay their taxes or do civil disobedience? No one cares, no one's watching, I think it's really important to understand that the Maoist movement and this tribal uprising is not able to function outside of the forest, And there are other kinds of resistance that are happening. So it's not the only resistance in India. There's a huge bandwidth of resistance, all of which the government is calling Maoist, and killing people whether they are Maoist or not Maoist, Do
you see parallels here with the Taliban, where anyone who is resisting a kind of occupation is labeled with one label when there are clearly many movements?
If you look at what's happening in that part of Asia, from Afghanistan to Waziristan, to the northwest frontier provinces, to the northeastern states of India, to this entire so-called Red Corridor. It's all tribal areas. It's a tribal uprising. And of course, in Afghanistan, it takes the form of an ugly radical Islam. And here, it's an extreme left uprising. But the attack is a corporate attack on tribal homelands. And so they are fighting a kind of occupation, even within India,
Coming back to the United States and its place in the world, it sounds to me like you're saying that the Indian state has appropriated the sort of war on terror worldview within its own borders. If that's so, how is that playing out? And how does that affect the United States' interests and movements in the region?
Well, in 1989, coming back to the great jihad in Afghanistan, when India sort of realigned itself, it also appropriated the Islamophobia, the replacing of of Islamic terrorism with
the communist threat.
The communist thing. Now we have both, of course. And India's alignment with the corporate market, the free market, the Islamophobia, all of that is now playing out in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Kashmir. India is jockeying very hard to find a foothold, a sort of strategic foothold in Afghanistan. And that is going to, end badly, because these borders, now it's even becoming difficult to use words like America, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, because you have the elites and all these countries that have actually seceded into a country of their own, and then you have the rest, so what does one mean when one says America or India, I don't know what we mean by that, because within India you have obviously the Muslim population, which is 150 million people, have been pushed to the bottom of the social and economic ladder in these last few years because of this kind of Islamophobia. And now they're they're hostage in a way to the politics that is playing out in this region. And from Afghanistan to Pakistan to Kashmir to India, when you have a terrorist strike like you had in Mumbai, it's impossible just to say, oh, it has nothing to do. I mean, not a single one in the Indian media would mention the word Kashmir or Babri Masjid. Even when those terrorists were actually saying so themselves, they were saying this is for Kashmir, this is for Gujarat, this is for the Babri Masjid, But
these places where Hindu nationalism has beaten down Muslim.
Yes, and yet the Indian media wants to say, oh, it's Pakistan that's doing it to India. But actually, people don't think like that. People's minds go across borders and across histories, and their grievances are not visa-based or border-based or immigration-based, So, and especially when these borders are so disputed. So all of it is playing out in very serious ways and will continue to play out. I mean, Obama, came here with hope you can believe in, or change you can believe in, or whatever it was. But over there, what happened? He just expanded the war. It's expanded in Afghanistan, it's expanded in Iraq. And if you're there and you know that they have no idea what they're doing, what are they going to do? Because beyond a point, as you've seen in Iraq and as you've seen in Afghanistan, you can bomb and throw all the daisy cutters you like, but at the end of the day, you've got to have boots on the ground to control those countries. Do you really want to? I mean, our governments can't manage themselves with the